All right, so again, taking a closer look at Dragonslayer, I've got a list here of five subtle but distinct differences between Dragonslayer and other OSRs that I have, of course, read, played, GM'd, and enjoyed, and things that I think are key. There are many subtle differences in this game from others, as all OSRs have their authors' tweaks upon them, right? So, but these are the five things that I think are really kind of interesting, or I won't say special, but are important to me. They inform play and they inform what it is we're doing here, right? So let's talk about those. So number one, and this is probably the most appreciated because I think it's the thing that most people are irritated by or hand wave away anyway, or ironically never pay attention to ever, ever. So why are we messing with it? And that is no encumbrance, right? Um, and movement is determined by armor. So you're instead of you being restricted by the amount of stuff you're carrying, you're restricted by the type of armor you're wearing. And this restriction is normal movement, fleeing and running, right? So no encumbrance. But let me read to you again his subtle suggestion in how we deal with equipment. Very simply, page 43. Players may only select items that can be reasonably carried by the player character. Thank you. Very good. That's all adults need to do this thing, right? That is literally all I need to know to do this thing. Is it reasonable, right? He defines how many coins a backpack carries. That's all you need to know, right? So when people say, but what can I carry? Well, loose coins. I mean, you're gonna have to put them in something. Sacks. How many coins can a sack carry? Small sack, large sack, backpack. Right. We care about the reality of carrying coins in something, in some kind of container, right? A box, a sack, a large sack, a backpack. Outside of that, reasonable, right? We are not, this is not Death Stranding where I've got shit piled up 8 feet above my head as I trudge along, right? Trying to navigate dungeons and fight. And this is to me completely reasonable to what you're doing. Yes, you're trying to get in there, you're trying to get treasures, you're trying to solve the mystery, you're trying to eradicate the beast from the whatever. But you're only going to be able to carry so much loot around with you, especially when you are moving and you are trying to fight in tight spaces, etc. So you have to be selective. And he gives great advice that you should have loot caches, right? So yeah, we slay the goblins here in this room, and we collect all their treasure, and we go over and we dig a hole, and we bury their treasure here, and we make a note on our map. This is where our treasure's at. We'll come back and get it later. Oh, by the way, let's go ahead and put some rations, some water, and some iron spikes in this hole too. So we have a cache of equipment, and we should do that periodically as we dungeon crawl, right? This is important, especially if you're doing like a mega dungeon, man. There is no going back to the village. You really need to manage your resources, and you're not going to this isn't Skyrim where you have infinite inventory where I'm carrying 42 swords, and it's just ridiculous. And I love that because, again, this is about reasonable, intelligent, logical, practical, mature gaming, right? So for me, I always used a limit, of how many slots are in your character sheet, right? It's kind of basic. Armor's in the slot of my character sheet, and I'll give you an example. I can't show you. Well, I could show you the book, but the arm, you flip it over your character sheet, flip it over to items and equipment, and then how much gold, how much treasure your wealth is, right? So if that's like somebody saying armor in a slot, dagger in a slot, sword in a slot, torches in a slot, backpack in a slot, whatever, right? Backpack and all the things that I could fit in my backpack. And that's reasonable, right? And I love that responsibility. You know, I like players to come to the table responsible for their player, their character, and accountability to the rules. And, this is not going to hold your hand and define all that. But I like that because let's face it, most of us, even if we say we're using encumbrance, probably half the time only bring it up when they found a hoarded treasure and they're trying to carry it all out. Then it's like, well, how much can you guys carry? And then we start this whole, oh, we gotta count that stuff, So let's we started off very simply with that conversation before they begin their travels. Gentlemen, you can carry what's reasonable. And you better have a backpack, a large sack, a small sack to carry coins if you're going to drag coins out of here. Right? I love that. So second, again, marching order. I've already talked about this. I love that it's a 4 simple procedure for combat, right? We're going to roll initiative. We're gonna check surprise, roll initiative. We're not even rolling for distance, right? That's something that BX clearly has. You're supposed to roll for distance from the target. None of that, right? You could, I suppose, use your own method to figure that out. When I'm in a dungeon, it's just normal. When they enter the dungeon at that 10-foot spot and it opens up, and I roll initiative to see if they spook the orcs or the orcs spook them, then it's pretty easy to say, you've got movement in the dark over there, just out of torchlight. That lets them know it's about 15 feet, 20 feet out of their light source, right? And they know something's about 20 feet, 30 feet out there, right? And then, so it's practical, right, as they approach, etc. So I like marching order because it also dictates who is involved in the melee. For instance, the front 2 guys can attack. Maybe somebody in the back row with with a missile or a spear could get an attack in. If they're attacked from the flank, it's those 2 players, so we're talking about marching order dictates melee order, right? And then, of course, you have to read carefully because he doesn't say in the combat, he does not stipulate you must declare your spells before initiative. He does under magic. So when you read about spells and magic and the rules, all the rules that pertain to spells and magic are there. It explains explicitly you got to declare whether you're casting before you roll initiative, right? And how do I know I have to roll initiative every turn? Because you're going to have to declare whether you're casting spells every turn. So know the rules. If you're going to be a magic class, you're going to play a magic character, be it divine or arcane, you have to declare before initiative is rolled. If you're disrupted, there it goes, right? So if you're attacked, suffer a wound, have to dodge a saving throw, something like that, you're going to lose the spell. So you need to know those rules. They are there in the magic section, right? So again, I already talked about that here. So third is spell declaration, pre-initiative, and disruption. The third part of part 3. So 1 was encumbrance, no encumbrance, right? Movement is based on your armor and reasonable what you can carry. Second is marching order. And I forgot here also, for me, a key difference is binding wounds, the ability to bind wounds. So that's kind of a part of 2. 3 is spell declaration, pre-initiative, and disruption. But also part of that is no duplication. And I love this because I can't stand it in the modern game where a guy loads up his fireball or whatever spell he has, and he has 5 spell allocations, and he puts magic missile in 4 of them. So he can magic missile, magic missile, magic missile, magic missile, like it's a freaking video game, right? So I love that you can't duplicate, dude. I mean, you get a spell, you memorize it, you expend that energy, you expend that spell off of your tapestry of the neurons, the neuroplasticity of your magic user's brain, however you want to describe the loss of that information upon the conjuring of the spell. Yeah, you don't get to do that again and again and again, right? So I love that. No duplication, right? So spell slots, for instance, BS, you're memorizing all you can for the day. And as you get more experienced and as you grow as a professional, you're going to be able to, your brain's going to start absorbing more and more of these abilities, but you don't get to duplicate them. And I love that. Number 4, character gen. It's very subtle difference. Roll 7 attribute scores, drop the lowest one, and then place the 6. Where do you want them? And that's going to allow you to pick the race in the class based on prerequisites, right? And that is fantastic. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room so you don't have a completely inept character. Also, it allows you to at least, but it's 3 dice 6, none of this 4 dice 6 drop the low. You're not building superheroes, you're building human beings and or elves or dwarves, whatever the case may be. But because I get 7, I can certainly wash out that worst roll. And that gives me some goal, as I don't want to roll up complete incompetent characters. And then we're sitting there all day while they keep re-rolling characters till they get one they can tolerate. I don't want to do that, right? So I like that. And I love the fact that we get to place them. So it lets me say, well, I know for a fact I want to be a ranger. I need this and I need this to be the ranger. Slot them in there and make your ranger. Let's go. Right. And then finally, the fifth important piece. And again, there's a lot of subtle differences in every rule, but a lot of subtle changes in spell descriptions and monster descriptions. So all that stuff you have to read and be aware of if you care about having the Dragonslayer experience, right? If you just assume all skeletons are the same in every game, then you're going to miss what it says about slashing damage, right? It does not define hard, how creatures, I mean, it can define hard, like if a creature's immune to something, for instance. But slashing damage with like a sword, for instance, is halved against skeletons, right? Makes complete sense. But again, that's not put on the equipment list, right? You've got to read the rules, right? Accountability, due diligence, right? Character gen, again. Okay, so the fifth, and this is important because I love how he handles time. It's time and rest, and time is very, very cool. So again, let me get down here to adventuring rules if I can get there quickly. It's a big book, folks, and so even my PDF takes a minute to get through. I should have had the page number written down here. Combat, again, I love it. So time. I love this because I think time is so paramount to dungeon crawling. It's paramount to the experience. There should be a sense that time is passing. Your torches are burning, your lanterns are burning, you're getting hungry, you're getting tired. It's stressful as hell to move through these confined spaces, right? The maze controller must track time in the dungeon, right? Very simple. Time happens 1-to-1 while dungeon crawling. The maze controller announces each 10-minute threshold. That's his ticker. So I'm only going to let you know 10 minutes have passed, right? I'm going to be accruing that, but I'll let you know when 10 minutes has passed. Every post 50 minutes, you need to rest. If you don't, there is an effect upon your characters. And this is important because very often it says you need to rest, but it doesn't define what happens if you don't rest. Well, this game does, and I think that's important, right? Second, anytime a player characters do something, this is huge. This is gigantic because this is one of the problems. One of the reasons I stopped being so vigilant about tracking time as I played as a kid and as I matured and as I came back to the game. I was very much hand waving off. This is genius. When the players do something, anything, 10 minutes goes by. So when Dell says, I'm searching the room for a trap, for a secret door, right? We don't just roll once and that happened in 10 seconds. We're going to assume time as the party guarded, watched, listened while Dell searched the wall for a secret door. And that takes about 10 minutes, right? So when Justin, in our game, for instance, in Joth, when Justin says, hey, I'm going to try to pick this lock, and we make that roll. We don't just roll to see if he succeeds at picking the lock or if a trap goes off. We also have to track 10 minutes of time. It took him that long to look at the trap. Maybe not. I mean, maybe you can say, how long does it take for you to felt pick a lock? Well, I'd like to think he's a professional. He's taking his time. It isn't jamming it in there, piddling around. I mean, it's taking time. So we can assume getting out his tools. We can assume him assessing the lock. We can assume him working the lock. All of this stuff. It's roughly 10 minutes. And I love that because now, again, what happens while Justin's thief is trying to pick the lock? We are all standing guard. We are all listening at doors. We might be kind of subtly looking around. Could we assume that while he's picking a lock, Dale is searching a wall? Sure. I don't see there's no problem with that. But I love the fact that when they do something, 10 minutes goes by. We don't just do it all in seconds like we do in the game, right? I love that. Again, he's got some other great things that just make Dragonslayer special. If you're going to use this book and you're going to pay attention to the difference between this OSR and other OSRs, you will get a slightly different experience. Hell, you may get a much greater experience, especially if you're comparing it to modern D20 games. If you're comparing it to super easy D20 games, we're asking more of the GM and the player here as the rules are a little denser, but we're not asking as much as, say, Pathfinder, etc. Very cool. Rest. Again, I already talked about this. This is part of that fifth point. Got to rest every 50 minutes. If you fail to take a rest, right, you're going to have to make a check, and it's going to affect your character, right? And I love that, right? It is for me, these are those five really double, because every one of them have a second piece. But so the first key point, no encumbrance. Movement is affected by your armor, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor. It's going to affect your movement rates. That's all you need to know. And of course, because the rules state a backpack holds 30 coins, sack, large sack, they hold, that tells you how many coins you could conceivably be dragging around, right? And then everything else is what you can reasonably carry. I think that is mature, right? Marching order, talked about that. And again, slash binding wounds. Those are kind of important parts of the combat, right? Or post combat. And then, of course, technically part of our encounter situations is spell declaration done before initiative. And then you can be disrupted, and you cannot duplicate spells in your memory, which is, those things are, for me, simple and necessary to know and simple to adjudicate if we all are in agreement of how these things work. But they're those subtle things that I think are important. Again, character gen, roll 7, drop the worst, place them to, so you can build, hopefully you can be the thing you want to be, right? And then time, how he adjudicates time, that it does matter. And because of that, we are tracking time. We are also going to track the necessary rest, and rest, if not done, affects your character appropriately, right? And I love that. And so that's part of my series on Dragonslayer. Closer look at 5 subtle but good pieces and things that I think make Dragonslayer very good. All right. Thanks for watching again. Have a great day. Bye.